The Democratic Party has been dealing with a lot of new changes, especially within the primaries this week. Within the past few days, two candidates have decided to call it quits and suspend their campaigns. This move does more than just simply limit the number of candidates already running for the nomination. This could potentially hurt Bernie Sanders and his election campaign, and probably even invigorate the anti-Bernie movement, which has been gaining steam and more organized, especially after Joe Biden's massive win in the South Carolina primary. As Super Tuesday is happening at this very moment, as I'm making this video, this could potentially shake up the nomination, and by extension, the future of the Democratic Party. Now, to understand why I think this way, we need to look at the two candidates that have decided to drop out. Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg. Now, in the case of Amy Klobuchar, she is not too well known within the Democratic Party, although she still remains higher up. She is a congresswoman, and she still has a little bit of name recognition. Although compare that to Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden, especially before the primaries even started, that was her brand recognition was small in comparison. But nonetheless, she's still a little bit higher up there, and it still maintains a massive amount of power. However, she never managed to use her name recognition in order to translate that into support. The only support she managed to get was in the form of 6 delegates that she won in the New Hampshire primary. After that, her entire campaign stalled, which, at this point, I suspect that she just decided to finally call it quits. This is completely different in the case of Pete Buttigieg, who is the second person that decided to drop out. The fact that Pete Buttigieg decided to drop out is, in my opinion, a surprise to me, because he managed to have some momentum, especially at the very beginning of the primaries. He managed to obtain Iowa, although there was that issue with the caucuses, but I'm not getting further into that. He managed to gain a lot of delegates as he was second place within New Hampshire, and he managed to obtain at the very least 22 delegates by the time he decided to suspend his campaign. The reason why I'm surprised is that I thought he would still be within this nomination process. I kind of thought that he would still have some momentum going forward. I didn't expect him to become the nominee, but nonetheless, I would still think that there would be some support behind him, especially the surprise that he got when carrying Iowa and a few other delegates instead. But nonetheless, he has decided to drop out. The reason why I'm focusing on these two major candidates is because of the fact that they're now endorsing Joe Biden, along with Beto O'Rourke and Marianne Williams. This could potentially help Joe Biden, because a lot of the voters who supported these different candidates, from Amy Klobuchar to Pete Buttigieg to Marianne Williams and Beto O'Rourke, etc., may potentially flock to him. True, they may not have voted for Joe Biden in the past, but considering the fact that there's Bernie Sanders, an avid a major socialist, they would decide to pick the lesser of all evils and go for Joe Biden, especially since their candidate specifically that they wanted is now out of the race. This again, like I said before, this could help Joe Biden and his campaign, and potentially to be a major rival to Bernie Sanders. And already his campaign is becoming a major thorn in Bernie Sanders' side. Currently, Sanders is in the lead with 60 delegates. However, Joe Biden, after his massive win in South Carolina, has managed to come to second place at 54 delegates. By a margin of 6 delegates. That's how close Joe Biden is to overcoming Sanders and potentially overtaking his place as the nominee. He could still win, but Joe Biden could still potentially win this. And the reason why I say that is because of the South Carolina primary. In the South Carolina primary, he made a major comeback gaining 35 delegates within the entire state. This has re-energized his campaign, which has been stalling at about 19 delegates behind Pete Buttigieg, who, by the time as he finally ended his campaign, was at 22 delegates. Now it's completely different, and now he's at 54 delegates. He could potentially gain the front-runner status again. And this is all thanks to the fact that the anti-Bernie movement has been gaining more steam. A lot of people within the Democratic Party, despite the fact that it's been fragmented, do not like Bernie Sanders from the far left. They understand the problem that Bernie Sanders would cause for the entire Democratic Party. Not only could the Democratic Party turn further left, as if it wasn't already, but it could potentially split up the entire voting base for the Democrats and give Trump another term as a result. I mean, after all, Bernie Sanders is not very liked because of his political positions, especially among independents, which, by the way, I went into in one of my previous videos. With that fact, the anti-Bernie movement could potentially give Joe Biden the necessary steam and energy to overtake Bernie Sanders. Of course, that is not entirely a guarantee, especially with Super Tuesday. Now, originally, I thought that Bernie Sanders could potentially win a lot of these states and still maintain his front-runner status. But now things have changed. Now, while it's still, from what I've been seeing, looking like it's favoring Bernie Sanders to some extent, Joe Biden still has been carrying a few of these big states and still remains in the lead, at least from what I've been seeing. He's not going. There's potential. It's potential that Bernie Sanders will still keep his front-runner status, even in the case of Super Tuesday. Now, despite that, Joe Biden could still overtake him. Either way, in my own personal opinion, whoever the Democratic Party decides in the case of either Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden, they're still going to have to deal with a lot of fallout and damage as a result. I honestly, in my personal opinion, do not believe that either candidate has the potential of being Donald Trump. I've said that before in the past, and I say it now. This election, specifically, is not about the general election. Or, well, to some extent it is, especially since a lot of people have been fighting against the establishment, and the far left, and that alone has been a major advantage for Donald Trump at the very least. But this election specifically, it's about the Democratic Party. Whoever wins the nomination, be it Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, could change the makeup of the Democratic Party. If Bernie Sanders wins, as I said before, the Democratic Party turns farther left. This will alienate a lot of voters, a lot of independents, no Republicans, obviously, and probably a few moderate liberals would decide to permanently leave the party. Maybe this could potentially even force the Democratic Party out of relevance unless they decide to reform. And with Bernie Sanders at the helm, I believe that there will still be reform. Now, there isn't going to be much change, especially with Joe Biden being the one who wins the nomination. I believe that there will still be needed reform. However, if Joe Biden manages to win this nomination without the need of superdelegates, if he manages to beat Bernie Sanders in the fair fight for the nomination, this could potentially delegitimize the Bernie movement and their call of thinking that there is going to be major support for socialism, especially not just within the Democratic Party, but within the United States in general, which has been a major focal point within Bernie Sanders after the 2016 election. In my honest opinion, I think that Joe Biden, should he win the nomination, will still lose the election, but still keep the status quo with the establishment in charge. Nonetheless, either way, whoever the Democratic Party chooses, either Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden, there will still be need for reform. Possibly, the Democratic Party will have the chance to reform and choose that populist outsider within the movement that could potentially grab the support of the independents and maybe even the few Republicans as a result. But that all determines of whoever wins this nomination. Whoever wins this nomination determines the future of the Democratic Party. My name is Noami, and on The Arc Truth. Please post your comments down below, like this video, subscribe, and share with your friends. Also, if you have any issues regarding my videos, such as how I speak, how I talk, or how I speak, how I frame my videos, any improvements in general, or subjects you want me to talk about, please post them down in the comment section down below or directly message me. Thank you.
Almost